Hello, many blessings, my loves. This is Rebecca, and this is my full moon report for Pillars of the Moon. So, welcome, everyone. How are you all doing with this wild, wild energies? It's a lot, isn't it, at the moment? So, yeah, I'm going to journey with you through some of my musings for this full moon, which is coming up tomorrow. So that's the 10th. And we'll have a look at everything that's kind of going on so we can get a fuller picture of everything. So I'm going to begin by going into the live sky. So I'm going to share the screen with you all. So yeah, this is Stellarium Web. So you can see, so the time of the full moon is 21:36. This is the GMT time zone, and that is Thursday, the 10th of July. So yeah, please use this program. It's amazing for looking at astronomy and the live visible sky. So yeah, this is different to tropical Western astrology, which currently doesn't match the sky and hasn't for a very long time now. So you'll see that this full moon will be happening within the stars of Sagittarius, the Archer. So beautiful, powerful full moon coming up tomorrow. So yeah, let's talk a little bit about these energies of this full moon and what it could be beholding for us, and what it could be bringing up for us, and what we could be journeying with. So you can see this is the stars of the Archer Sagittarius. Sagittarius is half man, half horse, and beholds this connection to um, our inherent wildness, um, but also, the connection to wisdom and higher knowledge. So it's the collaboration of our head and the upper part of our body, our intellect and our wisdom, with the wild nature underneath it all. So this is the energy of Sagittarius, and the centaurs, are all this kind of this energy of the wild and the tamed, or the wild and the wise. So, and you can see that the archer is pointing its arrow towards the galactic center, which is around about here in the live sky. So you can see, where the archer is putting its energy. It's like directing it towards creation. When we think about the black hole in the center of our Milky Way galaxy, it really is about bringing through life. It's about creating our visions and our dreams, and it's about connecting to a higher power, connecting to source through this galactic gateway. So you can see that the archer is pointing its arrow towards something, so we can really see that there is it's a lot about direction. When we're journeying with the Sagittarius constellation, we talk about traveling, movement, exploring. The centaurs are of the mountain dwellers, so it's like this explorer of the wildness, the mountains, but also a cosmic voyager as well, like doesn't not just in the physical, but like directing energy through the galactic energy of the galactic center. It's like, anything is possible here. So Sagittarius also holds the frequency of possibilities, ruled by Jupiter, and the new moon that we had 2 weeks ago was conjoined with Jupiter. Now we have the full moon in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. So lots of Jupiter themes at the moment. So Jupiter bringing growth, expansion, you know, positivity, optimism, and philosophy and wisdom and learning through looking at different cultures and concepts. Sagittarius, being the explorer, quite likes to travel, to move around, to explore different ways of doing things, and yeah, looking at different religions and cultures and philosophies, and finding the wisdom from the collective experience. So Sagittarius is, I feel like, a great teacher, a great visionary, you know, seeking for truth by exploring all the possibilities. And once you've seen everything, once you've explored, imagine if you explored the whole world, then you'd have a greater picture of what's true. And if you explored the whole solar system, you know, you would have a greater picture of what is true. So a lot of the Sagittarian energy as well, it takes us into this seeking of truth, of a quest for an answer or a quest for a vision. It's like the vision quest. It's actively seeking, like, to grow and to expand our consciousness through this explorative way. So I love Sagittarius, and I've got a strong Jupiter in my chart. So it's like, whoa, here we go. You know, but what I find for me, like how I connect with this energy is like, I love my garden, and when I'm in my garden, it's like I can hear like the energy, and I can feel the energy within all the plants, all the birds, all the slugs and snails, and all of the everythingness within the garden is like, all of it is teaching us something. You know, and I've had this journey recently, or for my whole life, with mosquitoes, and this kind of like fear of these mosquitoes, because when I get bitten I blow up like a big balloon. um and it was so funny because I had this thing drop in through this cycle actually about this truth around the mosquito, and why it was chasing me in some way, that there was like, if something doesn't feel like our friend, then it's because it's our teacher, and that there's something that the mosquito is showing me, you know, around my own self. So these things, I feel like with this the energy of where the sun is as well, which we'll look at. Let's have a look at the sun in Gemini. So the sun is at Pollux, which is the mortal twin of Castor and Pollux, and so this is a connection to our immortality with the sun, you know. And what, like the Gemini twins, it's like there's, you know, there's different qualities that they both have, and it's, you know, there's complexity in the difference, and there's contradictions around ideas, and maybe certain ideas oppose the other ideas. And so I feel like sometimes with the Gemini energy there can be a lot of different ideas, lots of different opposing views about truth, especially with the full moon in Sagittarius. We're really journeying into what is true to me, what is true, what is truth, and exploring that answer. So this could also bring up like a conflicting of energies, a conflicting of rightness, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. You know, so this is kind of the energy of the full moon, of the sun being here with Pollux, you know, this immortal sun, that there's an energy of having to balance the opposing qualities and maybe see another point of view. So I'm going to go back over to Sadgie. Sagittarius. So Sagittarius like can be kind of a bit know-it-all, like, because they have traveled and they've explored and they've seen a lot and they've felt a lot and they've experienced a lot. There can be like a view, a stance that is stubborn and rigid of this is how it is, you know. So the important thing about Sagittarius is to remain open to opportunities, to not become rigid in beliefs, you know, to be explorative and open to embrace new philosophies. And because where the full moon is as well, I want to say, is in alignment with RUKBAT, and RKAB, which is the knee and the foot of the archer. So when we're thinking of the knee and the foot of something, it's the movement. It's encouraging movement, swiftness of movement. When you think of how fast a horse can run, it's like you need a sureness in our footing. We need to have steadiness in our pace. We need to be consistent in, what we're visioning, what we're exploring, what the quest is, and perhaps really using, because I think unless we have a really sure footing, we're not going to reach the target, because to shoot an arrow where you want it, you need to have a steady hand. You need to be steady in your footing, in your stance, to really feel who you are and what it is we believe in. But with this full moon, I feel like it's really questioning, with the sun in Gemini, like questioning different ideas around beliefs, different ideas around faith, different ideas around knowledge and truth and wisdom, and at a universal level. You could be seeing it within your societies, communities, around this power dynamics, around who's right, who's wrong, what is good, what is bad, and this kind of arguing of this. And there's like a righteousness that comes sometimes with Sagittarius of like, well, this is the way, and can be quite, like I said already, like a bit of a know-it-all. So Sagittarius can soften here and say, okay, there's other cultures, there's other philosophies, and be in that explorer and not be so fixed in the stance. But then there's also a need to explore, the different views, to find the truth within us, because somebody else's truth or somebody else's idea might not resonate with what feels true to us. So this is all the terrain, I feel, the body of energy that we're moving through at this full moon. And the centaurs, they are this inherent combination of wildness and wisdom, and how we can find this balance for the wild, untamed, primal aspects, and how we can use our wisdom and our intuition to direct the movement towards what we really believe in. So there's a need for exploring what we really believe in. There's a need for journeying through different ideas, different cultures, different visions, different philosophies, and then bringing it back to, how does that feel in my being? How does that sit with me? And exploring those answers within as well as around, because quite often the answers will be shown to us within nature, within the stars, within the plants, within all that's around of us. So sometimes when I'm really seeking for an answer about something, if there's something that's really kind of triggered me into my beliefs, like, oh, that's how I believe about something, and what does that mean? And when our beliefs are questioned, or when somebody might say that's not true, or, and it's kind of like it can rattle our foundations of our stance, of what we stand on, where our footing is. So I feel like our footing could be questioned, our philosophy could be questioned, why we believe the things we do could be questioned, and the footing could be shaky, and we could be really tested into true belief. And that, for me, is found through exploring my connection to everything. So the thing that triggered us, or the thing that rattled us and made our foundation shake, like the mosquito, is a teacher. It's quite making us question, is this true? Is it not true? Do I believe this? Do I not? And in going on that quest, it takes us into a deeper layer of truth within ourselves. We could look at our own lens and our own upbringing, on our own family and our own ancestry, and really see how our lens, is really stained and tainted by, you know, our foundation, our upbringing. We believe what we believe because of what we were taught, because of the culture we was in, because of the ancestry in our bloodline, you know. So it's really like, this is, I feel like there's an opportunity to really strive towards our hopes and our dreams and our aspirations, but there's a real need for direction and focus on this feeling of truth. And once we've found that feeling of truth, you know, that is our steady footing. That is our steady connection to our raw primal nature, our primal body that we all have, which is our connection to the earth and the mama here. And then we have this connection to the cosmos as well, which is, you know, our crown. And you can see as the Sagittarius constellation has the crown, Corona Australis. The crown is right next to Sagittarius, you know, and the crown chakra, when we think about the crown, it's our ability to connect to spiritual consciousness, you know. So right next to the galactic center, as I've said, is that connection to all, to the all, to creator, to source energy. So we are connecting to this wisdom, but also the wisdom, the primal wisdom in the body, and finding this union and this balance between the two polarities. Because the wildness without the wisdom, you know, is like a wild, like animal, like just like tearing apart things. And, you know, that there's also like a need for the wise, you know, the intellect and the wisdom to kind of direct the wildness, because that wildness holds a lot of power. You know, when that horse gets running, you can literally reach your full potential in seconds. But if you're going in the wrong direction, it's going to take you a long time, right? So this is the whole point of Sagittarius. It's like, well, what is your direction? Where are you going? Where is your chariot riding to? And once you've got that, you've got your life force. It's a swiftness of movement when you're directing it towards your goal, you know. So yeah, also as well around this constellation up below here, you've got the telescope. Telescopium. So there's a telescope here as well. Like, you can't make this up. It's like a telescope advising us to, designed to make us look out, you know, at the planets and the stars and the galaxies, and it makes distant objects seem closer, you know. So it's the instrument that has been designed to help us explore the cosmos and to be able to actually see it. You know, it's an amazing invention. And so, yeah, we've got the telescope, we've got the crown, we've got the explorer, and we've also got underneath this, we've got the beautiful peacock. So you can see that the moon is really aligned to Pavor, which is the peacock, beautiful constellation underneath Sagittarius. And the peacock is connected to goddess Lakshmi, wealth, prosperity, divine beauty, royalty, eternal life, and renewal. You know, the peacock sheds all of its feathers and grows them back again. So there's this connection to rejuvenation and renewal through shedding of the old, just like a snake, you know. So this is a beautiful energy to be tuning into, you know, like, how can I renew, you know, what old feathers need to come away? And that could be like a symbol of an old belief pattern or an old thought pattern or a cycle that is, you know, that feather is shedding so a new one can grow. And, you know, if we don't release some of the old, there's no room for the new to come in. Yeah, and then obviously next to Pavo, you've got Indus as well, which is the native indigenous tribes person. You can see native Indian here, you know. So after the full moon, the moon will be crossing over Indus as well. So this whole area of the sky here, you know, it feels like our ability to connect to spiritual consciousness, to the indigenous wisdom, to the primal power and instinct of our body, and the also balancing that with the higher consciousness and the wisdom to our soul, to source energy, you know. And this is, you know, we are designed, like we are an instrument designed to see things far away. You know, there's indigenous tribes in the world who know more about the cosmos than a lot of astronomers, you know, and they have no telescopes. You know, so we are also that instrument that's designed to see distant objects, planets, galaxies, you know. So this is like the real kind of indigenous wisdom, you know, that is can bring us so much perspective. So yeah, so let me just see above, we've got Aquila the eagle. So again, we've got this connection to the higher perspective, to being able to see, kind of zooming out, to look down at the bigger cycles that are at play, you know, to nothing is singular, you know, that everything has got a connection in the whole picture, and the eagle can really see from the bird's eye view, looking down at all of the things that are playing out, you know, within our own cycles, but also the global cycles, and how things are moving in a rhythm that, you know, there's a pattern to it. But there's also a need to, like with the pavos and taking out the peacock feathers, you know, there could be patterns that collectively we are repeating because we haven't brought awareness to that, you know, to this old cycles. And we've got Cygnus the swan above here as well. So you can see beautiful birds above the ecliptic, flying high, flying into the cosmic realms. So yeah, I'm going to go over to Gemini again because I felt I wanted to share a little bit about constellations around Gemini. So yeah, you can see that the sun is right in the middle here of Pollux. So yeah, the immortal one, the one that's connected to our immortality, you know, and what we was talking already about, you know, the connection to the centaurs, and also the connection to the crown and our immortal self, our soul, you know, that we are connected to always. And yeah, underneath the Gemini constellation, you've got the little dog here, Canis Minor, sorry. Got the little doggy, and then you've got the unicorn as well. So magical energy that's here below the Gemini constellation. So, you know, the connection of our immortal self that connects us to our magic, to the mystery, to the divine. And then again, we have like the unicorn is type of horse that can trot towards, you know, our goals and our visions and what it is we want to create. Yeah. And above, we've got the lynx. So I like to, like with the, I think with the Sagittarius energy in me, I like to explore all of the different frequencies that are affecting the energies, not just the singular like Gemini and Sagittarius, but there's a lot going on around it that also influences that energy. So the lynx we know is the big cat, and it's really solitary animal, you know, but what it's symbolic for is it's got supernatural vision, you know, and it's the power of observation, listening, watching, stillness, and intuition and wisdom that comes from that observation. So we could be finding that, you know, in our lives right now or in the world right now, there's a lot of conversations happening, you know, and the lynx is, you know, guiding us to be in the power of the observation, to be the witness, to not even say anything unless we really have to, just say, okay, just watch it all playing out. And really, that's how we can attain wisdom, is through the watching and the listening, and then using our supernatural vision, our third eye, to connect to, you know, our soul and the source energy and the love that is woven in all of it. So we could see at this time, you know, a lot of conflict going on. So I'm going to look in the chart so we can see what I'm going on about. I want to back up what I'm saying. So the full moon is in Sagittarius here, and we've got our ascendant. This is for the GMT time zone where I am in England, and the sun over in Gemini. But there's a T square happening to Eris and Chiron, who are over in Pisces. And by the end of this cycle, Eris, dwarf planet Eris, is going to go retrograde. And the last quarter moon, which we'll look at the chart in a minute, the moon is with Eris. So this whole cycle, there's a lot going on with Eris. So I've been exploring her a bit, and she's been on my radar for a while now, but like just that connection to the golden apple of immortality. And I've shared this story many times before. It's the fruit that started the war, so to speak. That when she didn't get invited to a party with the gods and goddesses, she came anyway, and she threw in the golden apple of immortality with a note on it saying, "For the fairest of them all." And then Athena and Aphrodite and Hera, they was all fighting over who was the fairest of them all. And then the gods got involved, and then that's how the Trojan War started, that went on for a long, long time. So many people blame Eris for causing the war. She gets known as this goddess of destruction, discord, chaos, for starting wars. But I think what it actually shows us is the shadow, it's the destructive nature of envy. It brings up power dynamics within societies. And yeah, she is next to Chiron, so there's a lot of pain, a lot of wounds, a lot of conflict. She's the one that was rejected. She's the one that they chucked out, that was persecuted. But I think what she also brings is the bravery. I guess the not giving a fuck about calling out what's already there, because if there was no shadows that existed within those gods and goddesses, they probably wouldn't have reacted to the apple, but what she has done is she's shown them that which is inside of them already, so like I said with the mosquito, wonderful mosquitoes are becoming a great teacher of mine, and they're showing me what is in me, because the mosquito could be connected to evil, bad. Oh, mosquitoes, yuck, but but every time it bites me, I had a bite right on my eyelid, and my eye like swelled and closed, and it was like, whoa, like what is that about? Like it could have bit me anywhere on my body, and it chose my eyelid, so there's like a deep wisdom that comes with that perceived darkness, or that perceived threat, or that perceived evil, or whatever it is. It's like it's showing us that which is inside of us already, that if that wasn't there, that wouldn't have an effect on us, or it wouldn't, if the shadows wasn't there already, then it wouldn't be attracted to us, or we wouldn't be affected by it in that way. So Eris brings that awareness of the destructive nature of society, that we will be in competition, or we will be jealous of what the other one has, beauty or love or money or whatever it is, and how that can ultimately bring conflict, war, destruction within our world. And how can we really own that? And that's our responsibility, to really own, our own part in it. There's enough kind of conflict in the world, but until we can really look at ourselves and our own contribution to the conflict, how are we at resolving conflict within our own lives, within our own communities, within our own homes, and many of us, we didn't have that demonstrated as children, so there's a whole learning, and that's definitely something that I'm working on with my children and my beautiful husband. How do we work through conflict? What do we need when we're in conflict? Because we're going to trigger each other. Like life is full of, tension and challenges, and pressure and things that we have to do and get done and everything. And there's going to be sometimes there's going to be tension, but ultimately, like the greatest work that I feel like collectively we're on now is like when these big elephants get pulled up into our face, and we really have to look at the things. We have to look at the thing that's been pushed up. We have to go, whoa, that's a thing. Hello, hello, big elephant, you're here. We really need to meet it within our house, within ourselves, and find a way to, I say negotiate with it, but that's the wrong word, to bring awareness to that part of us, you know. And quite often the part of us that's in the subconscious, that is in the wound, Chiron, is, you know, from our own childhood or from our own past lives or from our own ancestry or wherever it's from. And it could be in the subconscious, like Eris kind of brings it up to be seen, but it could be hiding. Whereas there's an opportunity, I feel, that we are being tested to really explore the shadow. And I feel like there's a lot of work required to really meet it and to trust it as well. And that's also a connection to the wildness, the wild aspects of our psyche, you know, like the lower half of the centaur. You know, it's like the wild mountain beast, you know, is also, you know, the top part of the beast. It's like bringing the wisdom into the wildness. And that is conflict resolution, because the wildness is the emotional self. It's the brokenness and the wounds and the shadow, you know, and the wisdom, you know, placed upon it is what will ultimately bring healing. And that healing, you know, it can take time, and it's not like you heal it once and then it's gone. It's like you become aware of it, and then each time it comes up, you're like, oh, there's that elephant again, hello elephant. And then you get to be in more relationship with that shadow that we have rejected and not allowed in, because maybe that part of us wasn't allowed when we was younger, etc. So all lots of big stuff to be exploring. But yeah, so I've just written down a few of the aspects here so I can speak about those. So we know we've got Saturn, and it's just, that's the Eris. The Eris T-square, that's going to be bringing a lot, and that's that. I could talk about that for an hour, but I'm not going to. But that's what I wanted to share about Eris. And just one more thing as well about Eris, it's like she actually had the golden apple of immortality. So to me, it's like, well, if you've got a golden apple, you know, you're a pretty important person, I would say. To even have acquired a golden apple would mean that you know, you're quite an evolved consciousness, because the golden apples are, you know, given to those who can hold that wisdom, you know. So, and it's the wisdom of the apple of immortality that brought everything up to the surface, you know. So, and that was an invitation from Eris, you know, what are you going to do with this envy? What are you going to do with this shadow that's in you? And what they did was the cycle of humanity, unfortunately, was to start a war and to try to win over the other. And you know, so there's an opportunity, I feel like, at the moment, with everything that's moving, to really face that within ourselves and find a different way of reacting. But even if we do react, because we're all human, right? We all have our own stuff. We all have our own shadows. But it's what we do afterwards. It's the mending. You know, how do we find resolve after conflict? This is the big work of today, I feel. So yeah, I wanted to talk about as well. We've got Mars. Mars is in Leo, and Mars is in square to Venus and Uranus in Taurus. And so by the last quarter moon, Mars will be with the South Node. You know, so this brings a lot of volatility. it brings up conflict within relationships in square to Venus, challenges within the dynamics within our relationships and our heart and our love, So all of the things, the tension that it brings, I think Mars in Leo kind of wants to do it his way, can be a little bit self-centered, kind of very much about himself and kind of can get a little bit egotistical around what he wants to create. And then Venus in Taurus, with Uranus, could be feeling a little unstable, a little unsure, a little bit nervous, maybe worrying about money or not feeling valued in her body. So this can bring like tension between the two, and also like there could be bringing a lot of changes around our resources with Uranus and Venus together, changes around our hearts, like changes of how we feel about things, the shifts and changes, around love. And so, to work with this energy well, it's like doing things differently in a really conscious way. Let's say, let's try a new restaurant, or let's go to a different place we've never been before, or let's spice it up, let's do something new, because Uranus and Venus, like Venus is wanting to try new things, to explore, especially with this full moon in Sagittarius, to explore new cultures, places. There could be this kind of wanting to shake things up in the foundations of our home, like things might be feeling like we're wanting to shift and change things creatively. So it's a really great time to be creative and use that tension. Because Mars in Leo is massively creative, but it's got a lot of passion, a lot of drive, but there's like a tension of like interest here with Venus and Mars. So this could be bringing up a lot of tension within our love, within our relationships, and around, our security, around our our beauty in our body, and feeling like, I think Uranus and Venus can bring like an unsettledness around all of that love. So just to be aware of that, and to work with that energy well, and maybe just try doing things differently, or shaking things up and doing things in a different direction to what you usually would, maybe coming out of the normal routine of things, and just trying things a different way. And the moon is in trine to the full moon is in trine to the south node and Mars. So this also gives me a feeling of, getting out there and exploring, of using this energy, like I feel like walking or running or any kind of movement, because the horse is like ba-dum, 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 like getting out there, like if you can, like get in a vehicle, or get on a horse. Great time for horse riding. But like use this energy to get out there and explore, get into the wildness, and connect the dots of everything, see how the world speaks to you through nature, and really connect to that interconnectedness and of your passion, of your creativity, and really find that, because it's so warm here in England right now. It's so sunny, and really get out in the sun and like really drink in that solar energy and use it for our creation, use it for our creativity, to find hopefully inspiration out there in the mountains or wherever we can go. Even if we just go for a walk, could just shift the energy. There's a lot of kind of energy towards shifting and moving and changing and not being stagnant, so Saturn and Saturn and Neptune, together in their conjunction. Saturn's about to go retrograde. Neptune has already gone retrograde. Saturn is going retrograde on the 13th, on Sunday. And these two won't be coming exact until next year. I think it's in March. And so this is like really a lot of work, Saturn, around our spirituality, Neptune. We're having to really learn and mature spiritually. It's like there's all these, because building Saturn of our dreams, Neptune, is like there's like this aspiration and these hopes and dreams of all the things we could build. But with this big T square with Eris and Chiron and the moon and sun, there's a lot of destructive nature in there that might tear it all down again. So it's like, okay, so before we build these beautiful dreams and visions, there's a need to really attend to the wound, really attend to Eris and really listen to what she's saying. You know, like this is the energy of chaos. And how can we really work with the energy of chaos in a loving way? You know, I have a beautiful 3-year-old who quite often goes into this emotional chaos. And it's like my biggest job is to stay regulated in myself. So this is another aspect of Saturn and Neptune. It's a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual focus, responsibility to regulate my own well-being, regulate my own nervous system, to do meditation, to breathe, to nourish myself spiritually through whatever practice that is. And I find, like, for me, if I'm regulated, I can hold any storm. I can hold the turbulence. I can hold the chaos. I can be an anchor of calm within toddlerisms. But if I'm not regulated, then I will end up in the storm too, you know. So this is the responsibility, Saturn, to really to grow spiritually. And there's this square to Jupiter as well. And so this is the tension to grow spiritually. And I feel like with Jupiter in Gemini now, there's so many ideas, so much going on, and it can be very frantic mentally, like quite a lot of mental energy, you know. So this is a really good time to come into a spiritual practice of some kind. It could be breath work, meditation, chanting, shaking, whatever it is that helps us, dancing, even just walking, gardening, journaling, you know, whichever way it is that we find peace inside of our being, to not be in the franticness of the mind. And wisdom comes through that stillness. And this is where the Lynx comes in as well, the Lynx constellation that's above here. You know, this is the power of observing our mind, observing ourselves, and having supernatural vision, you know, that we can find wisdom through observing of ourselves, observing of the way that we react to things. Observe. This is a spiritual practice, you know, to observe our mind, to observe ourselves, so we can grow. And this is bringing a lot of tension, I think, because we're being pushed and tested into moving through this. This is the shadow work that Eris is T-squaring. It's like, come on. Look at the elephant, or the elephant's always going to be like sitting on you. Do you want to be riding the elephant, or do you want to be sat on by the elephant? You know, because so it's like this kind of like coming into kinship with that which we have neglected or rejected in ourselves, and watching it in ourselves. And as soon as we start watching it, as soon as we can see the patterns in ourselves, that's the first step to awareness, to changing it. And one of my tarot cards, I've got this amazing tarot deck about astrology and plants, and I can't remember which plant it was, but it was saying that which you are not changing, you are choosing. So if we're feeling stuck in cycles, you know, maybe there's things we can do, just small steps to make changes. You know, it might just be one thing, you know, like, but one big thing. I remember my husband took a load of stuff out of one of the rooms and was like, okay, we don't need this anymore. And then him and my son were smashing it up with a hammer because it was an old wardrobe that was broken, that's been in the space for so long. And he took it out, and now there's all this space. And also they had a really good cathartic smashing up of the old as well, which was releasing a lot of tension. You know, so this is a really good time to really look at what's not working, what's taking up space, and how can we make more room for what we do want to come in. So this is the work of now as well, that I feel that, you know, coming from now until next March, when we've got, you know, we've got Saturn and Neptune coming together for real, exactly. You know, this is like it's just a journey now from here until then, to really to make some space, to move shit out the way and have a real good like shift of what we've got, what we don't need anymore, and just moving stuff on. So yeah. Is there any more aspects I wanted to talk about? Let me look at my notes. Yeah, so you can see that Pluto, who's retrograde, it's quite close to this full moon, but not, you know, that close. Quite close. So we've got a trine from Pluto to Venus and Uranus. So this is also amplifying this transformative energy of the physical, you know. So Pluto's digging up the old, and Venus is having to look at all of the stuff that she's collected, because Taurus, Venus can be quite a hoarder, have lots of collections of antiques and beautiful things, you know, but there's like a Uranus is here going, do you really need all that? Do you really need all those old things? You haven't used that for 10 years. Like, do you really need that? And so there's this energy of, but also, as well as that being like a physical thing, it's an energy of a inner thing as well. Do you really need all that old karma, all those old baggages that you've been like carrying around for so many years? Like, can we put that down? We take that backpack off. You know, let's make some space for something else to come. That's what it feels like. Yeah, so Pluto brings this transformative aspect into it, that's really wanting us to transform. It's really wanting us to metamorphosize into something new, you know, from the caterpillar to the mush to the butterfly, you know. So if we want to be the butterfly, we really got to, you know, journey into the mush for a bit. And this could bring a lot of uncertainty. This can bring a lot of like anxiety as well, of like fear, and fears coming up to the surface. Chiron, Aries, T square, you know. So yeah. So I'm feeling like that's all I'm going to share about this chart. Oh, one more thing. I've got the square of Pluto as well too. Let me just draw it on for you. Pluto's in square to Eris as well. So yeah, this is not an easy energy. It really isn't. It's like, oh, it's like we're being forced into change, forced to evolve, forced to let stuff go. And if we don't do it consciously, it might just be taken, you know? And yeah. So yeah, pretty intense that square there with Pluto. So last quarter moon in Pisces. So you can see with this last quarter moon in Pisces, the moon has joined together with Eris and Chiron. Oh, and this T-square is still here. We've got Pluto here in this T-square, opposing the sun. So yeah, the last quarter moon is on the 18th. We can expect a lot of intensity, a lot of polarization, a lot of opposing views, contradictions and complexities around ideas, and a lot of emotions with Chiron and Eris, a lot of big feelings with the moon about things. We've got 33, 33 as well, so some powerful numbers there, you know. So there's a real kind of energy of like I've already shared about Eris and Chiron, it's a healing the neglected, healing the persecuted, and looking at the wounds, and, you know, looking at the fruit that started the war, you know, but it's not the fruit's fault, you know, it's the fruit was a teacher, and Eris, you know, was bringing up to the surface the destructive nature of envy, and how can we acknowledge that, and how can we really, you know, we're coming into the end of this cycle, you know. So there, with the last quarter moon, it brings a culmination, it brings a completion of past ways, of past cycles, you know. So as we're coming into the ending of this cycle, you know, coming down here. We're going to have our new moon in Cancer here, and Mercury will just have gone retrograde then as well. So, you know, this is like the last week of this cycle. We've got Mercury going retrograde and Eris going retrograde, you know, and so you've got Eris and the moon at the last quarter. And yeah, so the moon is going to cross over Uranus, Venus, Jupiter, and the sun before it comes into newness. But once it gets to the sun, it'll be the new moon. So, you know, this is a lot about our hearts, Venus, and our love. And you can see at the time of the last quarter, Venus is still in this square to Mars, and Mars is joined with the South Node. You know, so this is it's a very tricky energy, really tricky energy to be working with. You know, it can bring up a lot of conflict, I feel. Leadership, tension within leading, tension within, you know, this energy of conflict and envy, a competition, mine, yours. It's kind of like toddler kind of energy, like without the wisdom of the centaur's head to come down and be like, okay, is this the right way? Like it's kind of like the lower half of the centaur is kind of like the wild emotional self, and then the upper part of it is like the parent or the caregiver. It's like, should you have really done that? Is that a good idea? How did that feel for that person? You know, like it's like, yeah. So I feel like we are all having to reparent ourselves at these times to be able to hold all of these big feelings that are coming up within ourselves and likely around us. Yeah. So yeah, the last quarter moon is going to be quite an interesting one. Sun opposing Pluto, Mars with the South Node, Mars in square to Venus. You've got this this T square with Eris and the moon and Chiron. Whew. Yeah. So practices of self-care, practices of self-love. Yeah, and maybe going to the water, you know, with the moon in Pisces, maybe connecting to the ocean, jumping in the sea, drinking lots of water, connecting to our feelings around things. Yeah. And then we've got the new moon in Cancer, which will be coming on the 24th. Boop, 24th of July. Where is it? And free again. It's another free. There's another synchronicity for all you numerologists out there. So I'll come and do another report for the new moon, my loves. Yeah, so I'm hoping some of that was useful for you all. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, sending you full moon love. I'm sending a prayer that we can find balance in opposing qualities. We can find yeah, like an energy of love and welcomeness for the more challenging aspects of our own psyche, you know, that we can really love the neglected, that we can really return to the love, to the love for all the wounds and the pain, and really be a channel for that love for ourselves and for our families and for our communities and for the world. So sending you so much love, and yeah, blessed Sagittarius full moon, and I wish that you can all get out there and explore in this beautiful summertime energy. Lots of love. Blessed be.